context. So software engineering, that's where I personally, and I know a lot of people interact with AI the most.
There's a lot of fear and angst too from current CS students, but there's also, that is the area where probably the most AI revenue and productivity gains have come, right? Yeah. Whether it be copilots or Cursor or what have you, right? Or just standard chat GPT, right? Like I know very few programmers who don't have chat GPT, and actually many of them have the $200 tier because that's what it's so good for, right? I think that in that world, we already see it like SWE-bench. I don't know if you've looked at the benchmark made by some Stanford students. I wouldn't say it's like really hard, but I wouldn't say it's easy either. I think like it takes someone who's been through at least, a few years of CS or a couple of years of programming to do SWE-bench well. And the models went from 4% to 60% in like a year, right? And where are they going to go to next year? It's going to be higher. It probably won't be 100% because again, that 9s is like really hard to do. But we're going to get to some point where and then we're going to need harder software engineering benchmarks and so on and so forth. But the way that like people think of it now is it can do code completion easy. It can do some function generation. I have to review it. Great. But really the like software engineering agents, I think can be done faster sooner than any other agent because it is a verifiable domain. You can always like unit test or compile. And there's many different regions of like, it can inspect the whole code base at once, which no engineer really can. Only the architects can really think about this stuff, the really senior guys, and they can define stuff, and then the agent can execute on it. So I think software engineering costs are going to plummet like crazy. And one interesting aspect of that is when software engineering costs are really low, you get very different markets, right? So in the US, you have all these platform SaaS companies, right? Salesforce and so on and so forth, right? In China, no one uses platform SaaS. Everyone just builds their own stack because software engineering is much cheaper in China. Partially because like people, number of STEM graduates, etc. So it's generally just cheaper to do. And so at the same time, code LLMs have been adopted much less in China because the cost of an engineer there is much lower. But like, what happens when every company can just invent their own business logic like really cheaply and quickly? You stop using platform SaaS, you start building custom tailored solutions, you change them really quickly. Now all of a sudden your business is a little bit more efficient too, potentially, because you're not dealing with the hell that is like some random platform SaaS company stuff not working perfectly and having to adjust workflows, or random business automation cases that aren't necessarily AI required. It's just logic that needs to be built that no one has built, right? All of these things can happen faster. So I think software, and then the other domain is like industrial, chemical, mechanical engineers suck at coding, right? Just generally. And like their tools, like semiconductor engineers, their tools are 20 years old. All the tools run on XP, including ASML lithography tools, run on Windows XP, right? It's like, and like a lot of the analysis happens in Excel, right? Like it's just like, guys, like you guys can move 20 years forward with all the data you have and gathered and like do a lot better. It's just you need the engineering skills for software engineering to be delivered to the actual domain expert engineers. So I think that's the area where I'm like super duper bullish of generally AI creating value.
The big picture is that I don't think it's going to be a clip. It's like we talked to, I think a really good example of how growth changes is when Meta added stories. So Snapchat was on an exponential, they added stories, it flatlined. Software engineers, then up and to the right. AI is going to come in, it's probably just going to be flat. It's not like everyone's going to lose their job. It's hard because the supply corrects more slowly, so the amount of students is still growing, and that'll correct on a multi-year, like a year delay. But the amount of jobs will just turn, and then maybe in 20, 40 years, it'll be well down. But in the few years, there'll never going to be the snap moment where it's like software engineers aren't useful.
I think also the nature of what it means to be a programmer and what kind of jobs programmers do changes. Because I think there needs to be a human in the loop of everything you've talked about. There's a really important human in that picture of like correcting the code. Like
it's larger than the context length.
Yep. And debugging also. Like debugging reading the code, understanding steering the system, like, no, you missed the point, adding more to the prompt. Kind of like, yes, adding the human.
Designing the perfect Google button. Google's famous for having people design buttons that are so perfect. And it's like, how is AI going to do that? Like, that is like, they could give you all the ideas. Perfect button.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You can call it taste. Humans have one thing humans can do is figure out what other humans enjoy better than AI systems. That's where the preference, you're loading that in, but ultimately humans are the greatest preference generator. That's where the preference comes from.
And humans are actually very good at reading or like judging between two things versus this goes back to the core of what RLHF and preference tuning is that it's hard to generate a good answer for a lot of problems, but it's easy to see which one is better. And that's how we're using humans for AI now, is judging which one is better. And that's what software engineering could look like. It's the PR review. Here's a few options. What are here are some potential pros and cons. And they're going to be judges.
I think the thing I would very much recommend is programmers start using AI and embracing that role of the supervisor of the AI system and partner of the AI system versus writing from scratch or not learning coding at all and just generating stuff. Because I think there actually has to be a pretty high level of expertise as a programmer to be able to manage increasingly intelligent systems.
I think it's that, and then becoming a domain expert in something.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Because seriously, if you go look at aerospace or semiconductors or chemical engineering, everyone is using really crappy platforms, really old software. Like the job of a data scientist is like a joke, right? In many cases, it's very real, but it's like bring what the forefront of human capabilities are to your domain, and even if the forefront is from the AI, your domain, you're at the forefront, right? So it's like you have to be at the forefront of something, and then leverage the rising tide that is AI for everything else.
Oh yeah, there's so many low-hanging fruit everywhere in terms of where software can help automate a thing or digitize a thing. In the legal system, that's why Doge is exciting. I got to hang out with a bunch of the Doge folks, and they, government is so old school. It's begging for the modernization of software, of organizing the data,